This is a test of the audio for the 82nd annual meeting of the Cherryland Electric Cooperative.
It's 5:30 p.m. and I'd like to welcome everyone to the 82nd annual meeting of Cherryland Electric Cooperative. Over 150 members have submitted ballots. Therefore, a quorum is present, and we will dispatch business in accordance with our bylaws. In an effort to follow good social distancing practices and to protect cooperative members and employees from the ongoing pandemic, today's annual meeting is being held without in-person attendance and with minimal staff support. But thanks to modern technology, many are attending virtually from the comfort of their homes. I'd like to recognize those joining us live on Facebook and YouTube, as well as those listening over the phone. I encourage you to participate in today's meeting by submitting your questions in Facebook and YouTube comment sections or emailing to am@cherrylandelectric.coop. We will be answering your questions at the end of today's meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce Senior Vice President David Schweitzer for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask you today for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allowing us to nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace and guide us with your infinite wisdom as we deliberate upon these important matters today. Continue to remind us that all we do here today and all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask all these things in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Now, usually at this time of the meeting, we ask those of you who are members of Gold Star families and veterans to stand so we can acknowledge your sacrifices and your service. This year, even though we can't physically applaud you, be assured that this board and the Cherryland membership still very much appreciate your services and your sacrifice. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our board members and special guests. We have David Schweitzer, Melinda Lautner, Gabe Schneider, and Terry Lautner here. We also have directors John Olson and John Zickert that are virtually attending today's meeting as a board securities measure on the account of the pandemic. I would also like to introduce Tony Anderson, general manager, Greg Jenkins, corporate counsel, and Nicola Philpott, who is a candidate for the board of directors. I would also like to recognize our scholarship winners. Recipients of the three $4,000 student scholarships are Abigail Brower of Traverse City Christian High School, Tanner McLean and Garrison Wall of Elk Rapids High School. The recipients of the two $1,000 adult scholarships are Madison Hertel of Traverse City and Jake Tabor of Thompsonville. Through your hard work and determination, you have proven to be students that your cooperative wants to recognize and encourage to continue your educational effort. Congratulations to you all. Now, at this time, I would like to ask Secretary Gabe Schneider to read the notice of the meeting and proof of mailing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, Gabriel Schneider, being first duly sworn on oath, depose and say that I am duly certified, elected, qualified, and am Secretary of Cherryland Electric Cooperative, hereinafter called the Cooperative. That on the first day of May 2020, mailed to each member of the Cooperative a notice of the annual meeting of members of the Cooperative in the May edition of Michigan Country Lines. Such meeting to be held on June 11th, 2020, by depositing such notice in the United States mail with third-class postage. And attached hereto is a true and correct copy of said notice of meeting mailed as aforesaid.
At this time, I would ask the secretary to read the minutes of the previous annual meeting or accept a motion to dispense with a reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have the motion by Dave Schweitzer. Do we have a second? Melinda Lautner to dispense with the readings of the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried and then we will ask to approval of the minutes. So I need a motion to approve the minutes.
I move the minutes be approved.
Motion by Terry Lautner,
Second that.
second by Dave Schweitzer to approve the minutes of last year's annual meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. And at this time now, I will introduce our corporate attorney, Greg Jenkins.
At this time, we will move forward with the voting for the two open board seats. Any member that was in the car line outside our offices in the ballot box at 5:30 and is still in line and would like to cast a vote may do so. Otherwise, our voting is now over. I'd also like to direct our election committee to complete the tabulation of the votes in accordance with our bylaws. I'd also like to take a moment to thank those members of that committee for their service to our co-op here today. They are Sue and Craig Meredith, Barry and Julie Newcomb, and Marvin and Nancy Scott. Again, thank you very much for your service.
At this time, I'd like to ask our treasurer, Melinda Lautner, for the treasurer's report.
The unconsolidated balance sheets of Cherryland Electric Cooperative Incorporated as of December 31st, 2019, and the related unconsolidated statements of income, equity, and cash flow for the year then ended have been prepared by management in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and include all auditor adjustments by the CPA firm of the Raymond Group. A copy of the audited consolidated balance sheet and the statement of operations for the year ended December 31st, 2019 is included in the May issue of Michigan Country Lines Magazine. Audited financial statements are available at the cooperative office upon request.
At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report. We have a motion by Gabe Schneider. Do we have a second? Terry Lautner. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. And I will introduce Tony Anderson to give his State of the Cooperative report.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here once again to give this report. I came across a quote the other day from Martin Luther King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. And I think that's what we've been doing the last 12 months. Now I'm going to talk to you about BC electricity, DC electricity, and AC electricity tonight, and how that's affected your cooperative. First is BC. BC is before Corona, and most of 2019, all of 2019 was before Corona. And we had a great BC period. Our reliability for 2019 was 99.986. Now, those are probably some pretty boring numbers that don't mean a lot to a lot of people, but to us here at Cherryland, to your employees, they mean everything. And we went back in our history and we've never hit 4 nines, 99.99. And we came within maybe 4 or 5 squirrels of 4 nines in 2019. And it's a big deal to us. That's almost that is an all-time high in reliability. We've been working hard to get to 4 nines, and maybe one of these years we will, but we came very close in 2019. And we also gave back capital credits once again in 2019. $2.4 million was handed out to the membership in December of 2019. That makes $24.8 million over the last 10 years of cash money we've given back to the membership to show you what a cooperative is. And that's a testament for how strong our financial position is as well. In 2019, we made a commitment to Habitat for Humanity. We're funding them to the tune of $100,000 a year for 3 years. And that will start a new program where they're going to rehab houses. They're going to go into homes in need of repair and fix windows, doors, roofs, and make our building stock better. And that's a new venture for them, and we're very proud to have started that as well. 2019 was our first year of beneficial electrification rebates. We gave out almost $187,000 in rebates for 143 projects that are going to use 550,000 kilowatt hours a year for the foreseeable future. You don't have to know what kilowatt hours are, but that's the equivalent of 65 homes put on our system to generate revenue without adding poles, wires, or transformers. Those are ground source heat pump furnaces. Those are electric hot water heaters, electric heating of other kind, electric car chargers. And we will get that investment of $187,000 back in the next 3 years. And that will go a long way towards keeping our rates down. Nationally and statewide, we had some legislative victories in 2019 too. Two significantly on the national side. In December, the Rural Act was passed by our federal congressman, and it was a correction of the 2017 tax law. There was tax laws changed in 2017 that put nonprofit electric cooperatives in danger of having to pay income tax. There's 900 electric co-ops like Cherryland across the country. None of us pay property tax. Or property tax. We all pay property tax. None of us pay income tax. I'm sorry. The vote tally just came in and It's like, so none of us have ever paid income tax. And in the tax change of 2017, they missed some language. And if we got grants from FEMA, if we got broadband grants that were large enough to be more than 15% of our revenue, that would throw us into having to pay income tax. And that would amount to millions and millions of dollars, which we would have to charge the membership. So we had to fix that, and we knew we had to fix that. NRECA, our national association, lobbied for that. Everybody in the country got behind that, and we fixed that tax law, saving untold millions of dollars for co-ops across the country. The other thing that we did on the federal level was called the Secure Act. And all the 900 co-ops, we share a pension program. And 55,000 employees are in that pension. It's well-funded. Hundreds of co-ops would have to go out of business before we'd ever have to collect on the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation insurance. So we lobbied the Congress to say, we're paying premiums that are too high for the risk involved. And Congress listened, and we passed a bill called the Secure Act that's going to save the 900 electric co-ops $30 million a year in PBGC premiums. To Michigan co-ops, it's about $700,000 a year. On the statewide level, we had one piece of legislation that is significant, and that was some easement legislation that will allow us to use our electric right-of-ways, transmission and distribution for installing fiber and serving fiber to the home. Many of the co-ops in Michigan are doing that. Cherryland is not, but it will allow us in our service territory to facilitate helping other entities who are in the fiber business. And we're talking to some of them now. Wolverine, our power supplier, is talking to some of them because a lot of the fiber will be hanging on their transmission line. But most importantly, in 2019, our rates did not go up. We've not had a rate increase since April of 2018 was the last time our last rate increase went into play. So we're now at 2 full years without a rate increase. I'm looking back at Mark Wilson in the back of the room, and we're going to go 3 years without a rate increase. We can see far enough ahead that there will be no rate increase before April of 2021 and maybe beyond. But I'm not going to risk his wrath by going past April of 2021. But for sure, we're going to have 3 years with no rate increase. So you can see the BC period for the last 12 months has been excellent for us. The DC period during COVID, not so excellent, but not all bad either. We shifted employees to working from home very quickly. And that's a testament to Steve Weaver, Jim Bunnell, and some of the engineering staff. We have 58 employees. 17, 20 of those are in the construction end of it. So those guys were easy to get back home. But that's a lot of computers, a lot of monitors to get back into homes and get people up and operating. And we maintain functionality through the whole shutdown. And today, like everybody else, we still have people working at home. But they did a great job setting us up and keeping the lights on and keeping us efficient and functioning at the start of COVID and all through COVID. What did we do for our members during the last 12 weeks? We extended our disconnect moratorium to June 1. It's normally April 15th. We extended payment arrangements to help people stay connected. We gave 6-month deferrals to some of our zero-interest borrowers. As many of you know, Cherryland Electric has a zero-interest loan program, and we have about 21 outstanding loans to small businesses across our region. And some of those needed help, and we were able to defer their monthly payments for a 6-month period. My notes say we implemented outage texting. We actually had that going before COVID, but we kicked it in during COVID, and nobody else in Michigan, no other electric co-op in Michigan is offering the ability to report your outage via text. And we got that going before and during the COVID period to make it easier for you to report the outage, which you don't have very often, which is total credit to the 99.986 number. We can't talk about enough, but we made contributions to Father Fred and ECHO, which is a similar organization in Manistee County. So And we designated those for Cherryland members that needed assistance, Cherryland member only, and those organizations were able to accommodate that. And I'm happy to report the members did us a solid during the whole COVID period. When everybody went home, they turned their lights on and started using electricity. Because we lost the Grand Traverse Turtle Creek Casino revenue, we lost Crystal Mountain revenue, we lost Great Wolf Lodge revenue, and we were a little concerned about what was going to happen to our finances in 2020. But I'm happy to report that the residential sales spiked to cover the 30–40% drop in commercial sales. And our revenues are sitting right at budget, maybe even a little better than budget right now. So we're coming through this DC period very well. Crystal Mountain's back up. Great Wolf Lodge is going to open in a week or two. Turtle Creek is open. So I think we're going to have a very solid 2020. I feel like we've weathered that storm very well. And now we're kind of looking at the AC period after Corona. What's going to happen? There's still a lot of questions there. But what I've asked the employees, I've asked them to be patient as we've gone through this. And I've challenged them to use this period for finding ways to make us better. None of us wanted to be here. None of us liked it. But how can we find ways to get better? And we're looking at those ways right now. We've been sending trucks home with employees to keep them properly distanced since the start of this. Some of those employees may keep those trucks at home because it makes them more efficient starting and ending their workday. There may be some employees who who work from home permanently or on a part-time basis because of efficiencies and frankly, morale. If we can get the same amount of work done and the employee can feel better about it, why not leave them where they do the best work? So we're evaluating all of that. Happier employees means better service and better retention for everyone. So that's kind of the BC, DC, and the AC periods. So I've got a few closing comments. As we went deeper and deeper into the pandemic, we talked about like the BC period was so far in our past, like it was the good old days. I mean, like 2 weeks into this, we were talking like the good old days when we could go to the office. But we were slammed with executive orders, test counts, safety measures, press briefings, stimulus bills. And in my career, I started in the co-op business in 1983. This was probably the most stressful period of my career because we were fighting something we could not see. In the past, windstorms, trees down, snow on the roads, that's stuff we can see and we can control. We had a virus we couldn't see. And one of the things I thought about a lot as I was working from home was my office window. I don't have the best view, but for 17 years at Cherryland, I've watched the cars stream into Traverse City from Interlochen and Benzie, and I've always thought of those cars as the construction workers, the hospital workers, the waitresses, the clerical staff, the blue-collar workers who make this region run. And that stream dried up. So it was a constant stress of how can we help these people? What can we do for our membership? And I honestly worried less about myself and my employees because we were deemed essential. I didn't miss a paycheck. None of the employees at Cherryland missed a paycheck. But it was what could we do for our members? And it was never enough. We extended the disconnect date and stuff like that, but it never seemed like it was enough because we watched our economy crater. And that was hard. So I just want to thank all the members for helping us through this period as well, and everybody having patience, the employees who put in the work, the time. We all learned how to Zoom. We learned how to get along remotely. And I'm proud of how we handled that. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to see in 1 and 2 years. In 2 and 3 years, we're going to look back and say, remember this virus period? Well, that's when this started, and that's when that started. And we're going to look back at it as that sucked, but here's the positives that came out of it, because that's all we're left to do. We can't weigh and fret about the negative. We have to focus on the positive. And everyone at Cherryland is going to do that. Your board's going to do that. Your employees are going to do that. And I'm looking forward to the years ahead. And I'll leave you from one last quote from Martin Luther King. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Thank you.
I'd like to ask our attorney, Greg Jenkins, to come up and give us the tabulation of the 2020 election.
All the ballots have been counted, and we have the tally for the votes for the open board seats. First, with respect to the Leelanau County board seat, the totals are as follows. Thomas Van Pelt has obtained the amount of 2,934 votes. We also had 40 write-in candidates, with no one candidate receiving more than 6 votes. Mr. Van Pelt, accordingly, having received the most votes, is elected to the board to serve a term of 3 years. With respect to the at-large board seat, all the results are as follows. Mr. David Schweitzer has received 1,934 votes. Ms. Nicola Philpott has received 1,644 votes. We also had 17 write-in candidates, with no one candidate having obtained more than 1 vote. Therefore, according to our bylaws and the vote, Mr. David Schweitzer is elected to the board to serve a term of 3 years.
I will request the secretary to attach certificate of inspection of elections to the minutes of this meeting and declare the members receiving those greatest number of votes elected for the terms voted upon. Now I would invite Tony Anderson back up here to the podium to answer the questions from the membership.
All right, what do we got? This is a fun part of the night.
So far, we've had one question come in, and the question is regarding solar, and it's kind of a two-parter. So the first is kind of what is Cherryland doing to get solar for everyone, or for the general portfolio? And the second is what is Cherryland doing to help members who want to go solar?
So what are we doing for solar for the portfolio? Wolverine's done some solar projects. Wolverine, our power supply cooperative, is in negotiations with a local developer to put in 25 megawatts of solar in northern Michigan. And I expect an announcement on that project in the next month. So that's the biggest solar project we have going on as far as our portfolio goes. What are we doing for individuals? We have the net metering program, which we've had for the last 20 years. We have community solar. We still have community solar panels available if individuals want to buy in who don't have the ability to put solar panels on their house. So those are the two biggest things, our net metering program and community solar for individuals. Any other questions? I can talk about fiber a little bit because that's a question I get on the street a lot. Why are we not in the fiber business? Well, we're not in the fiber business because there's so many fiber providers in our area. We have Charter, we have Light and Power in the business. The Grand Traverse Band is installing fiber in our service territory. We have 186 Connect that's doing wireless and fiber in certain niches of our territory. Ascentec out of Mesic is in our territory with fiber as well. And now we have Wolverine is in the process of installing fiber on the transmission lines in our territory, which they will be working with fiber entities to utilize that fiber. So there just isn't a business model there for Cherryland to be in fiber. Our situation with fiber is we need to be a facilitator. We need to make it easy for all the people who are in that business to do it as best they can. So that's a common question I get at least once a week.
While we wait for other questions to come in, this is a question we received recently with the most recent storms, and that is, why doesn't Cherryland put more of the infrastructure underground so that we could avoid issues related to wind and rain?
Why don't we put more infrastructure underground versus overhead? And that's just a matter of dollars and cents. Underground line is twice to 3 times the cost of overhead wire. So at Cherryland, we only have 11 meters per mile of line. So you have to make a business case for when you go overhead and when you go underground. And people like their rates low, and we do as well, and they like reliable power. So the thing to look at is no rate increase for 3 years, which I just talked about, reliability at 99.986. So that's good. So we can't make a business case to put more underground. We do put a lot of our new stuff every year underground for developments and stuff, which the developers pay for. But we have 3,000 miles of line, and it's about half overhead, half underground. And I expect the underground to grow over the years, but we will always have overhead because of the cost.
We don't have any additional
Okay,
questions
that's fine.
online, but I would remind anyone watching this feed later, you can ask your question in the comment feed, and Tony or someone from our staff will come back in and answer it at that time.
Absolutely. Happy to answer questions anytime. Okay, we're good.
At this time, I will ask if there calls for any unfinished business. Hearing none, is there any new business we need to address? Hearing none, if there's no further business, the meeting will stand adjourned. Thank you very much for participating.